Well, our next guest is the author of a book, Fraud, Plunder, Treason and Our Treaty, which delves deep into the treaty industry within New Zealand to expose its racket of money, power grabs, and what he believes is corruption. Joining us from Auckland is the author of the book, Chris Newman. Chris, great to see you. You had me at fraud, treaties, it sounds like the lash of the rum and all of that sort of stuff. Tell us why you think, tell us briefly about the Treaty of Waitangi. What's its background and how has it played out over recent years?
Well, thank you, and welcome to New Zealand and our whole story here, which is a little bit complicated. In 1840, the chiefs and tribes had really begged the British Crown to give them a treaty because the previous 3 decades they'd been on a rampage, an arms race, where they'd slaughtered somewhere between 30 and 40% of their own kind and eaten them at a series of military engagements where there was only Maori on Maori using muskets purchased in Sydney. And they were so desperately tangled in this racket of murder, they call it utu. Tribal law says utu, payback. They couldn't stop it. It was like a runaway snowball. They were inviting the British to come in and help bring peace to the country with British common law, and the whole idea of modernity was about to begin. The missionaries who'd been working here for 30 years were very keen to protect the survivors of this self-inflicted misery and to bring them to a state of rest. And because Maori are very intelligent people in those days anyway, they saw the benefits. So they signed away their sovereignty, as it were, their chiefly sovereignty, to accept the higher sovereignty of British common law, which, of course... So
I'll just stop you there. So the Maori, there were various tribes who signed the treaty with the English, with the Crown, and who else? Now, and I'll just also pick you up. Obviously, there are many very intelligent Maori to this day, Chris, but I take your point that the signing of the treaty was an intelligent act because it brought peace. So you're saying it brought peace to the warring tribes back in the mid-1800s, and that was the purpose of it. The purpose of it was to bring peace to warring tribes. Okay, so fast forward to the 1970s, and the treaty was then looked at again. So what happened then?
Well, the treaty in 1840 was between 3 parties, the Queen, the chiefs and tribes, and all the people in New Zealand. In 1975, a very clever parliamentarian named Matthew Rata passed a document into the Parliament as if it were the treaty, but it was neither a draft nor a translation. It was a report written by one James Freeman, and he pretended it was the treaty. But the treaty is in Maori, not English. So this fake English document was passed as a fraud. So the Parliament since 1975 has been in a fraud because it's passed a fake document. And in that document, it said that the lands and estates and forests and fisheries, the chiefs and tribes had very special rights to those, and that it all implied that it was just the Queen and the chiefs. The Queen and the Maori.
So is this how we got to
the people?
So is this how we got to the situation today of the 3 waters, where the water rights are now being taken out of councils and handed back to different tribes? So is that? So you talk about fraud, you talk about plunder and treaty. So what are the today? Because we'll run out of time shortly. What are the ramifications today of this water regulation and how it relates to the Treaty of Waitangi?
It's an asset grab. It's a fanciful idea that all the chiefs and tribes were in a contract with the Queen. But modern Maori are mixed blood. They're all mixed race people. So they aren't chiefs and tribes. In fact, I think the chiefs and tribes would chastise heavily their descendants of mixed blood who are trying to undo all the unity, all the marriages and so on. It sort of has echoes of The Voice where, you had your constitution was under threat by people with an agenda who are busy running the race politics into the public sphere and using that as a cloak for their agenda. We had the same thing in New Zealand, where the the race-related politics under, I call it Maorification. Behind it, there's a whole lot of guys who are making big money out of this. So in New Zealand, billions of dollars have been transferred that belong to the people of New Zealand into the hands of corporate, what we call corporate iwi, which is tribal leaders, lawyers, accountants, social workers, a whole range of people who feed off the body of the Commonwealth of the people, and they don't have any mandate. There's no mandate. There's no approval. In fact, when these things are put to the vote, like your voice, they collapse. Recently in Auckland City... Oh, sorry, yes?
No, that's fascinating. So, Chris, we've got to leave it there. So, basically, your book, Fraud, Plunder, Treason and Our Treaty, it's fascinating because it does look at what we avoided here in Australia by voting no to the voice. There is an entire kind of undemocratic approach to property rights, water rights and so on, going to big organisations, which I think people should read your book. Fascinating story, particularly the history there. Thank you so much, Chris, for coming on Outsiders today.